Well, thank you very much. I feel quite moved, as you can imagine. What a wonderful welcome. And what a wonderful sight. I'm not used to addressing such a large and distinguished audience. I want to say a particular thank you to my son Leon, who's here. He's come down from Cambridge and he's getting married in the morning. So, and Meg, his bride, is here as well. So I'm particularly grateful you made the effort. It's lovely. Yes, I feel very moved also to be joining such a wonderful order. I'm not quite sure what it's going to mean for me. It's the beginning of a new part of my life, and a most important part of my life. I'm very excited about it because, for a number of reasons, really. There are so many people in the order I look up to and admire and love and respect. Also, it's become more and more apparent to me that it's an order characterized by friendship. Friendship, such an essential part of the Buddhist life, but a particular characteristic of our movement, I think. So my name, Ayamanis, given to me by Mangala, my private preceptor and friend. It means he who has a noble mind, and it's very remarkable that he saw at least a glimpse of that quality in me, which is rather humbling, a lot to live up to. But it's a beautiful sounding name, and I'm very grateful for it. How did I get here? Well, no, not tonight. I covered that. Really, it was Sally, my friend in the Sangha, who started me on this path. I was going through a very troublesome period in my life, and I said, I really need a break. She said, we thought of going on retreat. So I thought that sounds good. And so I did. I went on a beginner's retreat at Danakosha in Scotland. And it was a wonderful retreat. Again, I found everybody so friendly there. It was a time when I suppose I was feeling a bit friendless, actually. And it changed my life, particularly the introduction to this most beautiful ideal of universal loving kindness, which I hadn't really encountered before. Not only just as an abstract thought, but something we can actually work towards and work with ourselves to develop. And I was so full of this ideal, I couldn't wait to come to the LBC, which I did, I think, just a couple of days after I got back. I came to the Wednesday morning class and met Mangala, who became a good friend straight away, and encouraged me in many ways. He encouraged me also, I think pretty much from the beginning, to think in a different way about my life, myself, about things in general. In other words, to drop some of my, or at least to try and drop some of my preconceptions and attitudes. Quite a challenge at my age. I was already in my mid-60s, but I'll be working with that for the rest of my life. But I'm grateful for that too. Yes, so after a while, when I became more and more interested in Buddhism, I wanted to start studying it formally in a class, and Jayaka and Sangasiya were instrumental in helping me to do that by helping me and encouraging me to overcome an addiction, which I suffered from at the time. And I joined what's called a Mitra study class. I became a Mitra, which means a friend of the Triratna Buddhist Order. And we had a ceremony here, which I will never forget. That was a beautiful ceremony. And so Yanadaya, who's here, and Amaladana is here. They led that class very patiently and very skillfully, and I became really close friends with everybody in that class. It was a remarkable opportunity to get to know people. We were struggling with some quite complex and unfamiliar ideas and trying to understand what they all were, and discussing it all very openly. And it really was an extraordinary environment, really, in which to get to know people, and one which I really valued. Yes. So I was going on retreat more frequently then, and on one retreat, I hadn't been thinking very much about joining the order. I thought that was something quite beyond me, really, and it didn't really cross my mind very much. But on this particular retreat, which was a weekend retreat, I think, I heard Padmavajra, a very inspiring teacher at Padmaloka, talking about the life and work of Dr. Ambedkar, the father of the Indian Constitution, a government minister, social reformer. And what really inspired me about his life and work was that he oversaw the conversion of 500,000 Dalits, outcasts, to Buddhism, as a way to help them liberate themselves, at least in their mind, if not in their practical lives. And this so inspired me, I thought, well, perhaps one day I can help to teach Buddhism too, to help people liberate themselves from whatever is holding them back. So that was a very important stage in my Buddhist life. And Padmavajra has been important in other ways too, actually, because later on, when I started going on retreats for men, training for ordination, quite early on, one of the first times I met him rather, he asked me how old I was, and I told him. He said, well, if you're taking this seriously, you should get a move on. So I took him at his word. And of course, quite recently, he was my public preceptor. He ordained me publicly, so I'm very grateful for that. It was the most beautiful ceremony. Unforgettable things. I can't describe it all, but I remember one or two things I'm going to mention. Just suddenly seeing all the men who were being ordained with me wearing blue robes. It was a most beautiful sight. I'd been with these men on retreat before, and then all of a sudden we were all in blue. Yes, and then just before going on that long retreat, that 3-month retreat, friends of mine who were not Buddhists were saying to me, "Oh, have a great time," or that sort of thing, And I was going, well, okay, yeah. And I was saying to Phyllis, my wife, 3 months, well, don't worry, it'll soon be over. Well, subjectively, it was a lot longer than 3 months. There was a lot of beauty and depth in it, but a lot of challenge for me as well. And the challenge really comes from, looking deep inside myself, trying to, again, to drop preconceived ideas of what I am or what I might be. Quite difficult, really, but incredibly valuable. So I was there with these 19 men and 4 people leading the retreat, 4 very, very brave men who took on this extraordinary challenge of leading their first ordination retreat. None of them had done it before. And I'm full of admiration for their courage and energy and skill, actually. They led it extremely skillfully. But being with those men, after a while I realized these were not people I might necessarily single out to be friends with. But it was clear to me after a little while that I could easily be good friends, and had already become good friends with all of them. We were helping one another through difficult times. These are a very diverse group of people from different countries and backgrounds, sexuality, professions, skills and interests. But it was so harmonious. It was really a very remarkable experience in that respect. I didn't sense any friction at all the whole time I was there. So I think my time's probably up, isn't it? Yes. Okay, well, that's all I wanted to say.
Struck by with Ariamanas's talk was actually it was a journey of people. That's what I noticed all the way through his journey. He talked about people. So thank you very, very much for that, Ariamanas. I've been lucky enough to get to know Ariamanas. He's a very, very personable man. He was helping me with my rowing form. He was a very, very high-ranking rower back in his day, and still rows today, and he's helping out with his rowing form. I've always been particularly touched by Ariamanas's personability, and well, I think we saw it in that talk as well. He's very much his has been a journey of friends and people. So thank you very much for that, Ariamanas. So next we'll have up Chandramanika.
Thank you. That is really quite something to experience, and the welcome coming in and the rose petals. Yeah, not to be forgotten. Yeah. So, thank you, Emily Odin. I was going to start with the name I was given, Chandramalika, by my private preceptor Srivati, who's sitting at the back. Has come down all the way from Sheffield, which I much appreciate. She also travelled, obviously, all the way to Spain to privately ordain me, and has been my friend and supporter and champion and guide for many years now. I couldn't have done this without her. And she's really an example of so many people, men and women, but obviously particularly women, in my case, who have just been extraordinarily supportive, generous, loving, funny, helpful, unconditionally, non-judgmental and kind. And I think that's kind of why I got involved with Buddhism. I don't think, I mean, as with Ariamanas, and you picked it out, Amalodin, it's been largely more relational than it was, certainly initially, spiritual. I was affected spiritually, but I was, I think, more, in a more embodied way, affected relationally by the warmth, the friendliness, the Dharma being communicated by how people were. I'll come back to that. So the long version of my name that I've sort of crafted based on what Srivati has told me is Chandramalika, means she who has the wisdom of the moon and the fragrance of the perfect life, which I'll translate meaning the spiritual life, because clearly I don't have a perfect life. I don't think you'd believe me if I said I did. But yeah, she who has the wisdom of the moon and the fragrance of the perfect life. And the short version is she who has the qualities of the moon and of jasmine, which was a bit of a surprise. I mean, it's very girly. Like, wow, okay, I hadn't quite thought of myself in those terms. But it's been unfolding in sort of rather miraculous and lovely ways. I was told my name by Srivati. I think I was in a state of shock. It's quite an experience. And then she handed me a piece of paper with it written down on. And as I looked down on it, I noticed the second half of the name in particular. And I'll come back to that. But so Chandra means moon, and Malika means jasmine. And But the whole word means something quite different. It's another flower. It means chrysanthemum in Sanskrit. And I honestly mean this. I think if I'd known I was going to be called chrysanthemum when I asked for ordination, might have had second thoughts. Sounds like Hyacinth Bouquet's teenage daughter or something. I don't know. But thankfully, not many people will be translating that as calling me chrysanthemum. But the reason for Srivati choosing that was because I had an experience in meditation that was unusual for me. I'm not prone to visionary or strong meditation experiences that really stay with me. So this really stood out, and it was an online retreat in my home. I was sitting in my living room in a metta practice, a loving kindness practice, and I had this very strong experience of the stalk of a chrysanthemum coming up from within, from deep within in my perineum, and coming up in front, growing up in front of my spine. And then this huge blossom, this huge flower, deep red velvet, it was very vivid, blossomed out through my heart center, and half in, half out. And then as I breathed, it opened up to the world, and as I breathed in, it closed again. So it felt very much like this, I don't know if any of you have practiced the Metta Bhavana for any length of time. It's a particular meditation around loving kindness. The difference between self and other and the world and loving kindness as an energy just become very blurred, and this is what this felt like. And it stayed for ages. It was quite something, and it felt just really important, a really important touchstone on my journey, but particularly because of the quality which is associated with the Buddha that I particularly resonate with, and which is now my sadhana practice, which is Amitabha, which is a Buddha associated with unconditional loving kindness. And all the way through my journey, he's sort of made it very clear that he's the one. I sort of flirted with a couple on my retreat, but he wasn't having any of it. And it's always been Amitabha. There's just been no question that he was going to be my sadhana. And that's just a daily meditation practice we do once ordained. We get given it at ordination, and that quality of that big red breathing chrysanthemum symbolising loving kindness was what Srivati chose as my name. Moon, jasmine, huge breathing red chrysanthemum is going to be a lifelong process of kind of exploring and evolving into that. But the other really beautiful thing about the name was the Malaka, because as Srivati knew, but she didn't choose it for this reason, an order member here who's now no longer with us, Malaka, who was very important around the London Buddhist Centre, who was an elder. She came originally from Glasgow. She took me under her wing as soon as I arrived here, and she wasn't a big personality. I don't even remember her sitting up where you are, Emily Yodin, and doing big Dharma talks or anything. She was just this rather extraordinary elder who held the Wednesday daytime class, and Ariamanis and I are both on the team for that now, so there feels like a really strong connection. But she was just my first experience of embodied loving kindness without any agenda. And I remember I didn't have anywhere to place that experience inside me. I didn't have any point of reference for it. And it was like food that was too rich that I couldn't digest. I hadn't really experienced it before. Long story short, she's been with me ever since, whether in the body or not in the body. She's no longer with us, but she's been with me ever since in a very strong way in consciousness, almost in many cases as a female intermediary between me and the Buddha when I couldn't quite get to the Buddha, when he felt too far away or too historical or just distant. It was always Malaka that would show up in my consciousness. And so when I saw that name and saw that Malaka was part of it, I just wept. So irrespective of all the flowers and the moons and the chrysanthemums, it also feels like a lineage that it might be flight of fancy, but I like to think she had a hand in it. I wrote a poem to her after her memorial, and the last line of the poem was, she was like a piece of the moon looking right at you. And I dedicated my dissertation to Malaka, and I like to think she knew that I'd written Moon Malaka, because that's my name, Moon Malaka, and I love that. So thank you, Srivati, I really love that. Just wondering about time, Amelia, how am I doing? As I would just like to say how extraordinary the retreat was. Obviously I can't tell you any of the detail, but there was something that just, something about all that practice and then the relationship with nature. There just was these experiences, and these three women who are ordained with me in here will know these incredible experiences with nature reflecting the quality of the energy and where we were at in the retreat. I'm reliably informed by Maitri Yogini, who was also ordained with us, that there were, just before our public ordination, I think a day or two before, there were 80 vultures in the sky flying around. And the day we went up to the rock to sort of do a ritual, which I won't talk about, there was this enormous rainbow. There were sunsets that were extraordinary and weather that just reflected what was going on. Wind and rain and... there was something about the veil. The veil was thin. My friend Fiona said that to me recently. It really felt like the veil was thin, and there was an interactivity of some sort between what was happening there in this mystical, transcendental universe that was created by this team of extraordinary women, two of which I have to mention, which was Kula Nandi and Akasha Shuri, our public preceptors, who are... There were three women on the team who were nudging into their 70s and some well into their 70s. And, this is quite a hardcore retreat on a physical terrain. And they were unbelievable, just spiritual heroines, warriors, incredible. I'll never forget it. Their service to us, new ordinands and then new order members, was beyond belief, really. I'll always be really grateful. So I'm thrilled to be joining this order. It's been a long and winding road, as some of you will know. My first ever meditation class in this building was with Jnanavacha in, I think, either 99 or 2000, and I came back because of that meditation class, not because I remember anything that was said or that I took to meditation like a duck to water, but because of how the order members here were with people who just walked in for an open day, who knew nothing about Buddhism and were asking weird and wonderful questions, and the quality of engagement, the clarity, the kindness, the care was so powerful. I really want what they've got. I don't know what they've got, but what was clearly being communicated was their Dharma, the embodied practice in action with the people in the Bethnal Green community, of which I was one. And it's been a long and winding road, and I've never been able to leave. It's almost a bit like, I've joked about this, it's a bit like the mafia. They wouldn't ever follow you if you didn't come back, but I could not leave. I would really try at times. I didn't come here and think, yes, I'm going to be a Buddhist and I'm going to ask to be ordained. It took a while. It really took a while for me to settle and trust and dig in. And I'm so glad I'm thrilled about the next era with you guys. There's so many loving friends in this room. One in particular, Sugati in the corner, was here for my mitra ceremony in 2003. Amazing, amazing. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for the welcome. It means a lot. I won't forget it. It's quite an experience. And I'm just really looking forward to what's coming.
Of your name and of your journey. What I particularly appreciated from it actually was, well, you evoked the sense of internal journey with it very well. It was like you sort of let us in for, you know, your inward experience of which has been emotional, relational, as you say, mythical, poetical, all of those things. And I thought you brought that sense of journey and inward change in relation to your friends as well, very, very skillfully. So thank you very, very much for that. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. And last but certainly no means least, Surya Dasa.
Yes, thank you very much. It's lovely just to see so many of my friends in one room, so yeah, thank you.
Just be aware, we've got a very creaky...
okay. Yeah, okay. It also feels very surreal to be up here, because I've been to quite a few welcome back evenings and I've always been that side of the podium. And I sort of knew in my mind that I'd be standing here one day. And I've kind of gone through about 500 fantasy speeches in my mind at that time. So it's quite something to actually be here and doing it now. So yeah, I guess I wanted to talk a bit about my journey to ordination, and then say a bit about my name and the course. So in a way, I think my whole life has sort of led to me getting ordained. But what I can say is particularly when I was 8, so as young as 8, I remember having quite a strong experience that I think really set me on questioning life a lot more deeply, even at that age. So me and my family were in London, and we got a call from wider family in India. So my dad's mum was quite unwell. So by this time she'd been unwell for quite a while. She'd been bedbound for about 7 or 8 years, perhaps a little bit longer. And we got a call from India, and they said, it's not looking good. She probably only has a few days left. If you want to see your grandmother, if my dad wanted to see his mum, then now would be the time to come. So me, my dad, my sister, we went to India. I think I got told by my parents that my grandmother was quite unwell, but I don't think they went into the details and just said, well, and I don't think they said just how unwell she was. So when I got there, I experienced quite a shock. It was a spiritual shock. So I saw my grandmother essentially on her deathbed. She couldn't talk, she couldn't move, very frail, very withered, and it really shocked me. I really felt it in the centre of my being, really. And what I was seeing was death up close and personal at quite a young age. And I remember even at that age coming up with the question of what is the best way to live, given that we're all going to die one day. I thought, my grandmother's here, it's not looking good, she's got a few days left, and I thought, that's going to happen to me, that's going to happen to my parents and everybody I know, and I thought, in the light of that, what is the best way to be spending our time? And that question has never left me. It's always there. Whether I sometimes realise it or not, that question is always there of what is the best way for me to be living. And sometimes that question has felt like a burden or a pressure. And sometimes it's felt like a blessing. So at times when it's felt like a burden or a pressure is when I felt like I'm not really making the most of my life, and just being very aware of time and time ticking by and getting older and feeling quite a lot of anxiety, quite a lot of neurosis of time's passing me by, and I haven't really made anything of my life so far. And at times when it's felt a blessing, it's when that question has kept me searching for meaning, searching for wanting to make the most of myself and my life. So a lot of my sort of pre-Buddhist life was spent me being a careerist. So I put quite a lot of work and energy into becoming successful. I ran my own business. I did sort of various things in that sphere, and it didn't really make me very happy. I felt unhappy. I felt quite lonely. I was doing well financially, but I just felt like it wasn't really adding up to very much. So I knew that there was more to life than that, but I think the difficulty that I was facing is that I couldn't see an alternative. I couldn't see another way of living, so I just felt quite trapped in that. So it was quite something coming across the LBC when I was 26, so that was about 10 years ago now, and essentially I found an alternative way of living, and that initially came across through the people that I met. So I used to come along to Dharma night on Mondays. Jana Varcha was very present then, as was Subhadra Mati, David Mitra, various others. And I remember coming into contact with order members and feeling like there's something about you. And that's how I felt. I felt that there was a kindness, a generosity, a presence, a lack of striving, worldly striving that I hadn't come across anywhere else, that I found really unique. And I remember thinking, I want some of that. I thought, whatever these people are doing, it's working, because look at how they are, and I want some of that. So that kept me coming along, and I've never regretted it ever since. It's had its challenges, sure, but I've never regretted coming along to the LBC and doing what I've been doing. I think what it's done is it's given me a context to explore that question of how can I make the most of my life, that question that in some ways has haunted me a bit since I was 8 years old. So I'll talk a little bit about my private ordination now. So that happened at Padmaloka, so the men's ordination training retreat centre. And that in itself was quite significant. So over the years, that's where I've been going to train for ordination. That's where I felt people have been really supporting me alongside the LBC order members there as well. So just getting ordained there actually felt very significant to me. And in some ways, I can't sort of go into too much details, but on some level, the private ordination to me felt very ordinary. And on another level, it was the most significant moment of my life. And Mangala, who's over there, who was my private preceptor, he's given me the name Surya Dasa. And I love my name. I really love it. I was actually getting quite worried about the name a couple of days before the ordination. I was even playing out all these fantasies about having to have a chat with Mangala the next day about not liking my name. And I think when he was about to tell me my name, I was sort of slightly squinting like that. Like, go on then. But as soon as he said it, I loved it. The thing that caught me first was the sound. I just felt it sounded very smooth. And then once... no, wait, there's more. And then when he said the meaning, I loved it even more. So my name means he who serves the sun-like radiance of the Buddha. So he who serves the sun-like radiance of the Buddha. I'll say a bit about what that means. So the sun is a source. It's a source of light. It's a source of warmth, of energy, of brightness. The sun nurtures as well, so all life depends on the sun to grow. So I have these qualities, and my task is to develop these qualities more and more and express them more and more. And I feel really excited about that. I feel excited about that task, and in a way devoting my life to being Suryadasa in a way. Yeah. So that was the private ordination, and I also got presented with a yidam. So a yidam is a Buddha or Bodhisattva figure. So Bodhisattva means, well, sort of the next closest thing to enlightenment. So it's a figure that you meditate on with the idea of absorbing those qualities more and more and being able to express them. And my yidam was the Buddha Amitabha. And I just feel really blessed to have been given Amitabha in ways that I can't really describe. I didn't expect to be taken so much by being presented with a yidam. But actually a few days before the private ordination, I remember just staying awake at night and feeling I really need a yidam. I really need a Buddha figure in my life. So it wasn't even about wanting one or not wanting one. I just felt a real yearning for one. I was very pleased to get Amitabha. And then from there to Padmaloka, from Padmaloka we then went to Spain, so that was the bulk of the retreat, about 10 weeks or so. And a lot happened in Spain. I sort of, partly I don't think I could say too much just because of time, and partly because it just feels another universe away. I mean, I only got off the retreat 2 weeks ago, but actually it seems a lot longer. But I think, there were highs and there were also lows. And I remember saying to Pranyamanis on the retreat that I think that that was the first time that I'd actually really stopped. I went up a mountain, I left everything that was familiar to me and left behind all distractions, and all I got left with after that was myself. I got confronted with my own mind, and that was challenging. Sometimes that was fine and I was really in touch with gratitude, love, appreciation and joy. And other times, many other times, I was presented with a lot of challenge. I came into contact with a lot of aspects of myself that I don't really like, aspects of me that I tend to try and push away each week. I compared myself to a lot of my friends when I was on the retreat, friends that I've got back here. Lots of feelings of inadequacy, not feeling good enough. And I had to face it. There's no distractions. Up a mountain valley, there's nowhere you can run and there's nowhere you can hide. So I had to really turn towards myself. Yeah. So I was quite pleased to get back. And I'm just filled with lots of gratitude. I was on the course as well, and particularly since coming back. So I just wanted to move on to some thank yous now, I guess. So I wanted to thank my parents. So my parents have just always given me love, support, acceptance, and they've just trusted me to get on with my life. I've made a lot of decisions that are a bit unconventional, and they've just always trusted me as their son, as an adult, that I'm doing the right thing, even if they don't understand it, sometimes even if they don't agree with it. They've just allowed me and accepted me, which I just feel forever grateful for. And they had a lot of sacrifices growing up for me and my sister. So I just appreciate them a lot. So thank you to my parents. Thank you to Mangala. Not only have you been my private preceptor, I think what you've really been is a really good friend to me, and you have for so many years. So thank you for my name, but thank you also for your friendship across all of these years. You've supported me during times when I've experienced difficulty. You've rejoiced in me at times when I've been doing really well. And you've really just ever wanted me to be myself, and I really appreciate that. And also, I just wanted to say that in some of that difficulty that I was facing on the retreat, I did bring Mangala to mind. So Mangala, I think you've been in the order about 51 years or something like that. So I just remember thinking, I'm going through all this difficulty, but I can keep going because Mangala's kept going. So you really symbolised that for me. Yeah. And I've been fortunate enough to, in a way, have two preceptors at different times during my process. So I also wanted to say a really big thank you to Yana Varcha as well. Yana Varcha, you've actually just taught me that the spiritual life can be enjoyable. So that's all you've really encouraged in me over the years. And through your guidance, I've been able to do that more and more. So thank you. Yeah. And there are so many thank yous. I'm not going to be able to say them all. So I did also want to say a thank you to the team that led the course as well. So Pranyamanis, Prasadacharyan, Tara Palata and Arya Varsin. You really wouldn't have thought that it was the first time that these guys were leading that retreat. It was absolutely superb. And we all felt really comfortable and held and supported. So yes, a big thank you to them. And I know that they were supported by Matra Bandhu behind the scenes, so thank you to you as well. And then I wanted to say a big heartfelt thank you to Sakhavati. It's just such an amazing place to live. I've definitely never lived anywhere as great as that, and I don't know if I ever will. I live with just such amazing friends, such amazing guys. Each day there's so much joy and positivity, and it's become more and more important for me, Sakhavati and the community, and I was welcomed back so fully, so thank you. I also lastly wanted to say thank you to Bhante as well. Particularly on the course, it became more and more apparent that none of us sitting here right now, me being ordained, us being able to live this kind of life would not have been possible if it wasn't for Bhante and his vision and all the work that he put in to create what we're all benefiting from now. So, thank you to Bhante. Okay, so that's me.